Okay, everyone, I'm going to start that. So this session is the Treaty of Ruby Valley and Further Environmental Complexities in the Great Basin. Oh, no.
1 second, we're just going to share.
Yeah. I did a presentation like this a few weeks ago at a Treaty of Ruby Valley conference. This one was a little different, more catered to this audience. So my name is Banuelos. I'm the Tribal State Environmental Liaison with the Intertribal Council of Nevada, working with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. I'm also a member of the Demote Tribe of West Shoshone, and I've been in this position for 7 years now. And previous to that, I was the environmental director or coordinator for the local band of the Demote Tribe of West Shoshone. And yeah, that stop sharing thing up there is that.
Hi.
Okay, and so the outlets I'd like to have for this, and I'm not an anthropologist, I'm not a lawyer, so this is going to be really basic. But I go to so many like meetings and whatnot, I'm astounded by the lack of understanding of the Treaty of Ruby Valley, even from the people, our own people, and so much misinformation regarding it. I'm not going to go into depth about the wording in the Treaty of Ruby Valley, but I want to express what I've learned about why the treaty was made and what a treaty really means in terms of an actual treaty, not like an overarching thing. We talk specifically about this treaty and why it's important to understand. And so awareness of Great Basin conditions, a lot of the Nevada tribes, the programs, the tribes itself are overwhelmed by so much work that needs to get done. I mean, the request for comments just fills up your desk weekly. It is a lot. And understand more about treaty rights and how Native Americans kind of view them. So pre-treaty history of the NUA. So my people are what Delta from Ruby Valley, Nevada. Most of the water, even water is like the rye root, rye grass, and we make like bread and stuff out of it and other things. And those are my people, but we're part of the NUA, which is a combination of what's commonly called the Western Shoshone in Nevada. And so we had some camps that were set up in bands. A lot of people in those, a bunch of families together, kind of scattered around. Archaeologists, anthropologists would call this hunter-gatherers, and that we're nomadic, which is untrue. We had bases, we had areas where we would stay, but we move around, where the game was or where the plants were. We knew what we were doing. It wasn't nomadic. And so it's kind of offensive when people say that, especially when it's our own people that say that. And I think we need to correct them on that because the federal government is often trying to erode our sovereignty and say, well, you're not really from here. You just kind of wound up here and nomadic. And so we had bands kind of scattered around, for lack of a better word, clans, a bunch of families together, and they would say they're just people from these areas. And that's similar to a lot of other tribes. That's whatever eaters often they would call themselves. And one of the other things you see is the Fremont Indians in a lot of archaeological reports, which kind of went away like in the 12th, 13th century. And then the Shoshones showed up, I guess, in the 19th century or 18th century. And that's ridiculous. We're still the same people. But because of Fremont had things like petroglyphs and records that archaeologists recognized, they kind of just said we went away and then other people came back, which is ridiculous. But our language is African-American type language, and we're oral. We don't really do things other tribes do regarding documentation, things on walls or whatnot. Although there are things, if you look hard enough, there's tools laying around. So we've been there for thousands and thousands of years. How we got along? We would have camps and we would get together sometimes for certain celebrations, usually at the end of the hunting or gathering season, and party. And that's how a lot of us got together. We did a bear dance, and boy would meet girl, and then the people continued. So we had agreements made. I heard a story about fighting over, not fighting is the wrong word, but a resource. Surface water often is an important resource, and so I heard there was like a spirit throwing contest one time to determine who had access to an area. So we had agreements and things to get along with each other. Ways of life, diet, conditions, sports. There's so much life out there where the area where the Great Valley was signed. Some of it, I'll get into that a little bit later, went away. Our diet was a lot of berries, nuts, the game, the animals that were all around. We did insects. My mom used to say, you boil something long enough, you eat it. And so we would, and it's actually pretty tasty. A lot of the natural, I think you think about salt and peppers, but a lot of the food has its natural taste to it that gave it a lot of flavor. We would have sports like the shinny, where it's like a field hockey game. Often played by girls, and then they were talking about it a little bit in the stories yesterday about the aggressive, like pushing someone's head into the ground. I didn't hear that, but it makes sense. But we had sports, and those are things that we did to get along and enjoy life. And our culture, a lot of singing, storytelling. You don't know yet if you're not Native American, we love laughing. So a lot of probably joke telling and stuff like that. So we had culture for thousands of years. This pre-treaty. And just to give you an idea, so this is, it's not the best, and it's hard to find good maps. But again, the language, the framing structure of the Essayukin, Shoshone's the name of our language, not the name of our people, who is our people. And, but to the right there to the east, there's also the Comanche, which speaks similar language to our cousins. And as you go, you see the northern Shoshone and then the Bannock, northern Shoshone, eastern and then western Shoshone. And the Washoe, the people of the Pipes, the Numa, those are, we all speak kind of the same language. You understand each other. There's no differences, of course. Some of them are just like accents. My mom used to, when people sing, she would say, oh, they're from there because they talk slow. And there's ways you can see where people are from. And it's similar. And Mono and the Washoe people, they're, we all communicated and have things going. We have the Fountain Pike Shoshone tribe, and they're pretty far west there. And there's little camps all around, and there's a lot of Western Shoshone Nua over in the Sierra Nevada, the Tunbisha tribe. They have their art cousins too. So get around. I mean, you've been here thousands of years. So introduction of white settlers. Of course, it was introduction of white settlers in the 18th century early. People coming up, just doing trading and whatnot. But it was really the Spanish in southern Nevada, but also a lot of traders and people like that. The English Hudson Bay Company came around 1828, going into Oregon, and they were competing. They're an English-owned company, and they were competing with America. And they basically started a scorched earth policy. Basically, they tried to kill all the game, all the animals, so there wouldn't be anything left for the Americans. And they took away a lot of our animals, a lot of our diet, our food, by doing a scorched earth in northern Nevada. And it had a big impact on us. And so two differing, we thought divers, white people, but they would be Oregon. We were the people that paid for it by that affected our diet. And then Mormon settlers came in the 1840s, surveyed the land, took the land, and that was in Utah, but going into Nevada. And I was reading archaeological reports about Skyhook Billy, but it's important because he was setting up camps based on early ranches in Ruby Valley, and he was well liked by the Nua. And but he unfortunately was well liked. It's a common story where someone was well liked, but he was basically getting Native Americans as indentured servants, as the slaves, basically working at these camps for almost nothing. But we had an economic system of trade and similar things. And then they were introducing the dollar, and to get food, they needed to work. Our people didn't really understand how that worked, how capitalism worked. It was confusing to them. And that a lot of our people suffered because of that. And of course, in the California Gold Rush, 1848, I believe, they started gold, and that really, people were coming east to get that gold. And so the routes were established, and military started were coming in there along with a railroad that they wanted to plan out to, so people could go all the way to California. So a lot was happening in about 1 decade. And the Civil War happened, and so they needed resources like gold and silver, and so mining started happening over in this area where the treaty was signed. And it was a lot for our people. And we had battles with the federal government and even private people because they were taking away our resources and it was confusing to us. And they were attacking us and hurting our women, children, our elders. And so, we had our leaders, Joseph, who passed away right before the treaty was signed, and his successor was Captain Buck. And we had other leaders like Quad, Mose, and other leaders that signed the treaty. And they each had different roles. It was difficult for the military to understand, and they would assign us as chiefs. But that's not really our structure. We had leaders. And they led for certain things. And I'm still trying to iron that out with some people, what exactly they were leaders for, like hunting, or war parties, or we did have leaders that were like governor type things, where you're making sure that the economics within the structure are working, like an infrastructure type person. We had leaders for that, and I believe that's what the vote was. So one of the things, so they have a little map here of New Segovia, which was the area outlined in the treaty. But it's in the middle here, over here. So in that area, we had a lot of battles. And we just did a tour where we down in when like older cousins was talking about the battles. And we have stories so much south that many of them are going away, where that battle happened there. I was told about a battle that happened in Harrison Pass by a big giant rock, and that the military had taken a cannon there. And so it makes sense that the canyon gets somewhere important. And there are other battles by mountains and stuff that aren't recorded, but we have stories about them. And I think a lot of them were recorded because maybe they lost those battles because that goes to the side of the treatment. And so there were also massacres. Cedar Springs, an area near Ely, going towards the Goshen area in northeast of that area. Over 700 people were killed, women and children by the military and other people by private citizens over time in 3 different massacres. And there are other undocumented massacres. A lot of our people were getting killed. And so when they're talking about us being hostile, we're like, we're protecting ourselves. You were hurting our people. And you were lying to us too, saying you weren't going to do things and then sneakily attacking us. And so our people were worried and scared probably. I can't think what they were thinking, know what they're thinking, but it makes sense. And so our leaders, and there's documented stories about our leaders going back and forth with their warriors, and also the resources. And one thing I want to touch upon too is our women. A lot of the people don't talk about them. It's all the side of the treaty are men. A lot of the stories are the men that are fighting, but you got to think our women must be doing some amazing things, supplying our people, our men, and basically probably being the strength that we here with us in trying times probably. And I want to recognize them too in their strength. And so the story that's signed with the treaty is not a good story. So toward the end, there are after massacres, after battles, some lost, some won. The idea of a treaty, because the federal government also needed these resources in Nevada to support the war, the Civil War. We basically brought them to the table because we were causing so much grief, and they're allocating too many resources in the area. And so, but they were trying to starve us out, get rid of our diet. So our people were hungry. The smells of them polluting the water, poisoning it, and so not having water to drink, and just doing terrible things to scare us. So our people relented, and our leaders decided, okay, we will sign what they call a treaty, and we did that with them. in an area, actually Fort Ruby is in the Ruby Valley of Nevada, but it's actually, I believe the treaty was signed somewhere more north. That's still undetermined, but I think it was somewhere around Overland Creek is in the area there, because I think there were camps existing there, where I say the Uncle Billy and all those like ranches. They might be more secure signing it there, because the tales talk about them bringing a young warrior to there, and meaning he was moved, so it didn't happen where he was being held for Ruby. But I was told that after signing the treaty, well, they had killed him, and after the signing of the treaty, they made us eat him in a stew. That's not a metaphorical story, because of course, when I was younger, I'd ask my grandfather, was that metaphorical? When did that happen? And then I bring it up, like, well, things were tougher back in the 19th century, things were different. That's how the treaty was signed. And people made their mark, I think only one person wrote their name. So we didn't really know what we were signing when we were signing that treaty. But what we did know was this treaty seemed really important to them, and it was going to stop the fighting and make our life easier back maybe what it was again. And then that our leaders had the authority to sign a treaty with the federal government. Like, we were recognized and respected enough to sign a treaty, and that was important to us. So the aftermath promises were not kept. I'm going to that a little bit later. And so I was talking about what I consider myself NUA. We also have the NUMA, which is Northern Pike, and NUA Southern Pike. And there's all sorts of different names of people. There are some people that aren't even here anymore. Small bands, maybe, that did for thousands of years or later around, but they were massacred or disappeared or were integrated with other tribes. And I don't want to forget about them, because maybe they have different language, but they've been there for a long time. I remember visiting around Alamo, going to Vegas, and there were people there. And I think they're more Ute than Shoshone. So there were people scattered around, especially in northern Nevada. So post-treaty conditions for the NUA, not good. We lost our culture. We were also starved out, still not offered jobs just in the capitalist system, so we didn't know how to survive. Mark Twain wrote about us being beggars. Mark Twain later recanted that thing. But so we were just trying to survive, and our resources were plundered. We were told we couldn't go there because other people now own that land, and so we couldn't get to the places we needed to get to for. We would have areas, say my family may go to this mountain range, and that's where we hunt, that's where we gather, that's our area, but it's blocked off to us, because we don't know where to go. We can't go there because that's those people's area. We can't go there, that's those people's area. And it was confusing to us. And then, of course, it was the doctrine of civilized the savage, literally federal policy. And that's how the boarding school started. And they really wanted to eradicate us. We remember it, and people are like, well, you need to get over it, but like, oh, yeah, we remember it. And as part of that, friend of his name was started the Girl Scouts, he had a vision, and that basically just says that they're going to go away. His Girl Scouts, the federal government didn't like that. And right there, I have a book, he had a second phase of it. It went away, and then he brought it back, and he was like the grandson of one of Woodswolf's proteges. And so he started that, and that went into the early 20th century. But people look at it as bad, but we're looking at it as, no, we're just saying, help this great spirit. So during the century, a lot of lost culture, trying to assimilate, that's almost unwillingly, but we just needed to survive. So we were assimilated to the culture, we lost a lot. And we see it to this day. World War I, our warriors are very important to us, and so we saw in that the respect of our warriors going to World War I. And then their job programs for Native Americans, really big things in the 1910s and 20s for us. The 1954 Indian Reorganization Act, and I've fun that a little bit, getting the tribes to be recognized as tribal nations, and then constitutions were made in the early 30s, mid 30s. And then a lot of our constitutions were based on what is that called? When you count everybody. Census. What was that, 37 census? That determines what your blood quantum. So they counted the people And then that was what determined that they were Native American, an ancestor from that. But a lot of people didn't sign it or didn't get involved with the census because they were scared of the federal government, so they hid. Some of them were working on ranches somewhere else, and they went around. And then on the flip side, some people said they were, and they weren't. And it's something we've always been trying to iron out. But that's what we went for on that mid-30s census on who we are, which is ridiculous. It's my personal opinion.
Can I also mention that when they were doing the census, this Alita Bowler that's going around, she was just putting down newer people as 7/8, 3/4. I mean, how did she know any of that?
And that happened with other tribes too. They're deciding on a percentage of people. And I mean, I was being, one of our collection workers who was full-blooded Native American, but it's a mixture of Paiute, Shoshone, all Great Basin tribes. He did get quantum for our tribes, 100% Native American. Ridiculous. So going to that, I saw this really good quote. I'm thinking about the people in the 20s that really, before Constitution, before a lot of these things exist that we rely on now, how are they made? And this guy, Antonio Tony Luna from the Pueblo, there's an anthropologist report. It says, otherwise, we don't take this bill. Our white men is all around the edge of this. They always look when they're going to see, and maybe they see gold, they might see coal, and if we had the allotment, the white men might begin to loan money to some Indian boy or girl because they see something on their land. And the boy or girl might want to buy an automobile and will lose their land in a few years because they have borrowed on it. That's enough to finish the Indians. You have no place to hang your hat or shawl, no house, no home, and that all will be destroyed. And that was important to say. We weren't having people say stuff like that. And again, it was confusing us, of course. Now it's been about 30 years or 40 years or so. We're still confused about how capitalism works. And a lot of our people were very trusting because historically we had to trust each other. We trusted other human beings. And we were confused by all the lying. So I want to go over just contemporary challenges. You can't really see this thing. It was a movie, but I just, that's military projects on Western Shoshone land. We get the plans of the military projects, and I'm going to touch upon the bases. So these are in Nevada active mines and energy projects in Nevada. You see a lot of them on the I-80 corridor, but the big ones around the Oakland area, around the area where the treaty was signed, are the Cortez Mine, Turquoise Ridge, Gold Rush, Ken Ross Mine Company has Bald Mountain, Round Mountain. And there's also oil east of the Eureka area, which is this area here. There's oil there, and so I don't want people to forget we have gold and silver projects still. There's expansion to the mine and closing the mine takes a little bit of resources that the tribe wants to be involved. What I'm touching upon here is
what's Kinross?
Kinross is a company that's a mining company called Kinross Mining. So in Nevada Gold is a combination of Barrick Mining Company and Newmont Gold. So those are just two big mining companies in Nevada. There's a bunch of other mining companies. But what I'm getting into is expressing how we are trying to rebuild our culture, and in that environmental programs and capacity, political, administrative, and programmatic capacity. And we're just being hit by all of this as we're doing that rebuild. Oops. So just a gap on the goal. The Grass Valley Infiltration Project consists of infiltration of mine water at a maximum rate of $85,000 per minute. Moving to that, rapid filtration basins located in Grass Valley. The Grass Valley infiltration site contains 4 RIVs. The facility is designed, constructed, and operated, closed without any discharge or release in excess of those standard established regulations that is authorized by the permit. Showing that CB for R25. But I just want to show this because the state of Nevada looks at dewatering as because you recharge water. So it doesn't. They're saying there's no impact in the water quantity in the basins because a recharge and discharge is dewatering is fine. It's water. So there's been no impact or minimal impact from these mine projects. That's the way the state of Nevada seems to look at it. And then there's disagreements on the language and how they look at it, but really, when I did the meetings, it seems like, okay, that is essentially, that's what they're saying. We have to keep that talking later, so sorry, Jennifer, but, yeah, that Jim was pretty fast. So lithium mining, so, right now we have the Becker Pass lithium mine, hard rock lithium mining, which is in the, McDermott corridor, we going towards McDermott, north of Winnemucca. It's been in the news quite a bit. During the fast tracking of the EIS process, the BLM missed a massacre, basically, that they could have fired, they spent longer on it, I think. But, and then there's also the upcoming right at the ridge lithium boron project, which is right there by Tonopah. Really, I was surprised to really, on the map you don't see it, but it's pretty close to Hawthorne. It's closer than I thought it was. And so that is going to use a different method, the brine method, where they insert like a liquid and derive the lithium out. And so that's just two, and we have near the Right at Ridge project, Goldfield, that's an existing lithium mine. So there's two, as stuff starts happening at that capacity, there'll be two pretty soon, and then probably three. And then what I want to touch upon is, so these are the Placer claims. These are for permits to go out there and look for lithium, exploratory wells. And last, when I checked on this about a month ago, 23,490 the Division of Minerals claim. And some lithium exploration holes are 3,000 to 4,000 feet deep. And my cousin Rocky in Ruby Valley said, because they're doing a lot of exploratory looking for lithium around there, he said well water went down 7 feet just based on the exploratory wells. He can't think of anything else that's happening in the area that's taking the water down like that, like it did with him. So it's 23,490, just to give you an idea, we're talking about 2 or 3 mines right now. And this is, I wanted to show this because the area of the Treaty Ruby Valley is right where that white area is, and that's where they're they're finding lithium. And there also is another area north of Wells that they're looking at, and I forget the name of that. But this was, it says as of April, there were 14,971 placer claims. That's 2017. And that the last one I gave you was 2024. So basically 9,000 claims that happened between then. That, I want to give that to impress upon you the rate of how fast this is happening. And I understand not everything, all those are going to be drilled, but 10, 12 out of that, that'd be quite a bit. And that's a big impact on the water at a time of climate change when the ambient temperatures rising and water is going to be an issue. The Energy's clean energy commitment, so there's geothermal, solar, hydro, wind, biomass. Each of these projects will require easements, right of ways, probably 106 process, deeper permitting. And I'm not saying I'm against any of this stuff. I'm not like anti-mining. And it frustrates me when I'm with my peers and they're talking about anti-mining and everything. I'm like, well, you gotta give this up? You gotta give up your TV? That big old truck that you drive around? No, I don't think no. So, but I'm just saying, do it responsibly, and that we're overwhelmed that we need help to ensure that the environment's not being poisoned. Because that's what I'm focused on: the water quality, water quantity, the stream, going in and out of these places. How are we going to close up? How are we going to clean up that mess? NDP's going to get that, and they're kind of left with the bill a lot of times. They clean these things up. And Fallon Naval Base expansion. So the existing Fallon Naval Base is around here, and so this is what they want to expand out to. It looks like Congress is going to take one of the options and expand it out, but that takes up quite an area, a big area in Nevada. That's not even talking about the flyover areas of the plains. And then the Nellis base near Las Vegas in their area there. But all this requires tribes to go to meetings and be involved in the NEPA process, some scoping stuff at the beginning, specifically without a naval base. And I remember going to a naval base meeting, and I was astounded that they were documenting the meeting, that they just wrote the agenda. They didn't take anything from the tribe or what they wanted to talk about. It was a consultation. And they said, one of the ladies was saying, where you're going to put that project is right on the Indian cemetery where my people are buried. And they said, don't worry, don't worry. We'll document it, we'll take photos, we'll allow you to move the bodies before we blow it up. That's basically what he said. And of course, she started crying, and it was just horrible. So, going to EPA treaty rights, and this came out in the summer, going back a ways, the consultation policy from EPA, and also EPA tribal treaty rights. MOU interagency use of and access to natural cultural resources protected from significant degradation. It's a supreme law of the land treaty, up there with federal statutes and language, and the same legal force effects of federal statutes, principles of trust, relationship with federal recognized tribes, obligation to honor the right reserved through treaties, includes rights to resources both on and off federal trust land, ensure that federal actions are consistent with treaty rights and their intended protections, recognition of the need to consider and account for the effects of federal actions on habitats that support treaty protected rights, including habitats impacted by climate change. And tribes that do not have treaties may also have rights that should be considered in federal decision-making and regulatory process. And in the language in it basically states that this in no way gives EPA any extra authorities to do things, but it doesn't say that less. But it recognizes that it's a supreme law of the land. And I'm thinking, so when our people signed the treaty, and it was promised to us that a reservation would be established near the area of the treaty, and that never happened. That was one of the promises made. And so they said, well, no one's using it, so it's been 5 years now, so no, the answer is no, we're not going to establish a treaty. But the new reservation, they established in Hawaii, Nevada, in northeast Nevada, the Duck Valley Shoshone Reservation. And so a lot of our people were moved up there. And so my great-great-great-grandfather was assigned a treaty in Okemo, and his brother took over for the tribe as the Demogao Jokomo, and he was kind of the leader of our people. And he said, we don't want to move here, I don't want to move my people here. And then there's a documentation of the superintendent for what was then, I forget what we call it, the land agency, but it was Bureau of Indian Affairs, basically before the Bureau of Indian Affairs. He says, okay, then go back to Ruby Valley, that's where your water is, that's your water. He said that, documented. And yet in the state of Nevada, they're saying first come, first serve. And they said that that's your water, and we have no water rights in Ruby Valley. And it's astounding to us that is like that. And so the territory specified in the Treaty of Ruby Valley was an articulation of the area within which the Shoshone would be expected to roam and to adhere to the terms of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, including the provision that the Western Shoshone bands agree to cease hostilities, cause depredations upon the, it goes on about hostilities. Gold and silver mining rights were given in the treaty, and that the people would no longer molest the trains. The United States would fairly compensate them and promised and agreed to pay to the said bands of Shoshone Nation annually for the term of 20 years, the sum of $5,000, including cattle for herding and other purposes suitable for their wants and conditions, either as under their herdmen. And the said bands hereby acknowledge the reception of the said stipulated annuities as a full compensation for the loss of gain, the rights and privileges hereby ceded. And I don't know if we read that treaty. And that's I took that out of context. I moved something around, but that still was too long. That last paragraph is basically what promises were made to the Western Shoshone. And so my great-great-grandfather, Old signer of the treaty, said it was confusing to him and the people that denied was of white people. Exerted so much effort. Exert so much effort in forcing us to sign the treaty, and now they don't honor it. And it was confusing. They went through all this, and they're not honoring it. And one of the big things right now restorative justice, it focuses on identifying who was harmed and how to repair the harm. The treaty of Ruby Valley ceded no land. It just ceased hostilities, demarcated the boundaries of the West Shoshone ancestral territory, promised safe travel, establishment of military posts, safe telegraph stage lines and railroads, mining, compensation to the Shoshone, and establishment of reservations and gifts to the Shoshone. And that's what they looked upon some of those gifts. But what was offered there, that money, was only done once. It wasn't annually, it wasn't continued, and it was only once with certain people. And so there was just a lot of distrust when we were promised that reservation, and
Just turn your render off.
sorry. Airplane mode. And what was lost to us too was a lot of our people were meeting with them beforehand, military and other people, private citizens that own these camps, a lot of Mormons, were there talking with our people as these things are going on. But that's not documented. It was confusing to us when we were having this conversation. Like, we'll employ so many people here, we'll make it. Things like that were promised to our people, and we thought, well, things are changing, but we can do this here. And then finding out they're like, you have no rights, and you can't hunt or use to hunt, you can't gather or use to gather, and basically people were made homeless, and we were made nomadic. And so it took a long time to rebuild ourselves, and it really hurts when we're trying to figure out things. It hurts us as someone knowing someone trying to kill you, and your people, and they did actually. Young people, old people were lost. Then told you need to fit in with that society that did that to you. And the boarding schools and everything were brought up. And so we did, though. We did try to assimilate the became cowboys and ranchers and everything like that. But something was lost in that our respect for ourselves, because we had really strong leaders. We survived the Great Basin, which was a really tough environment. And so we had problem solvers. We had people that would work together. We had really creative people. We had art and culture. We had our storytelling. We had song. We had sport. We had a whole culture here, and it was basically destroyed. It's hard to forget that, but we're doing that, and we're trying to rebuild. But then it's frustrating for us when the government doesn't seem to understand why our tribes don't engage with them regarding all these land projects and all these things that need to get done. Hey, it's for the benefit of your tribe. But we're like, we understand that, but we're having a trouble getting people to not drop out of high school. We're having a difficult time with domestic violence, with alcohol, drug abuse, because people have low self-esteem. We're living in a caste system, and that caste system existed where dark were on the bottom and the white people on the top, and we had that internally going on too. And so we were kind of made to think that we were less than white people, and a lot of us believed it. And because of all that trauma in the 20th century, I think recently we're really coming out of it. We're trying to rebuild, but all this is happening so fast. We're overwhelmed. And I'm trying to impress upon decision makers that we need federal funding set aside to employ people like archaeologists, geologists, hydrologists to do all this legal required work or similar type work to ensure that our people and the animals, because almost every comment letter I make to something land project always ends with, we have to speak for the animals and the plants, because humans don't understand them anymore. It's our responsibility to protect our cousins. We forget that. And it makes me sad when you drive in areas and you see the trees sick and you're like, that's our responsibility to help them. And people are more worried about the dollar than that. And it's hard to impress upon that in federal regulations, state statutes, and in meetings that people are just like, well, I'm here to do work, I don't know what you're talking about. The law says I do this and this, and I did it, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's frustrating on our end as Native Americans, a lot of us to understand that. So think about how this applies to your people or the tribe that employs you. Don't forget the sacrifice that our ancestors made to grant you the authority to come to the table with the federal government. They did. If you think those leaders didn't think about with their descendants, who's going to be here, of course that was on their mind. Of course, being able to eat a good healthy meal and being like how things were on their mind too, but they were thinking ahead. They did that. The amount of strength it took them to do that and sacrifice, to sign a treaty they didn't fully understand, it blows me away thinking about it. And that's what any of the treaty written between the federal government going all the way to the East Coast. And federal agencies need to understand that these are not just words, these are treaties signed with blood and sacrifice. And the people still recognize their treaties, even if many non-indigenous people don't truly respect the tribes. And I get that, I see that in meetings where, well, you guys are even less of a local jurisdiction. You know, this township has got better capacity than the tribe. I'm like, yeah, but over the time, I try to think of it as like a song. It's a long song for the people and for the world. And it's just a little point in the song. And maybe 500 years from now, a small tribe is really maybe it's going to be very important now. Because maybe that part of the song, they're going through struggles right now. And so, you know, we just ask that respecting the people that have been here for thousands of years, a lot of them, and not just listening to what archaeologists say or what people say to erode tribal sovereignty is important to us, and that has to respect. And with some of the people that look like they're not, they don't have the education or experience to work with you one-on-one, well, that's the reason why, but they're trying. And they have people like me, older people trying to help them out. And so that's why when you come to the table, they don't seem to know what they're talking about. Why do they have this person in front of me? Because they're trying to rebuild, and we have to start somewhere. And so that's I thought it was going longer, but it was a pretty short presentation. That's me, that's Goza. I found a little secret place with one of my buddies, Rich Atkins, from Dr. Rich Atkins, who works at Forest Service now. But I got to give you a big chunk of Goza there. Tribal State Environmental Liaison under Tribal Council of Nevada. I have, so IVCN has an office in Reno, and then in Carson City, I have an office as part of the MOU that created the position in 2004. I have an office in Carson City, and they give me use of their telephone and internet. And so I have 2 different email addresses, and that's my cell phone number. Feel free to call me, but not during presentations. And I don't know, any questions? Again, I'm not an anthropologist or a lawyer, but I do have experience.
I have a question for you. Are you finding now, with what you just said, like the expansions, are you finding tensions are easing or they're getting worse?
She's asking if the tensions are getting easier or worse. Worse? Unfortunately, because we're trying to rebuild our capacity, we lack a lot of the disciplines that I think a lot of our people had to survive. But a lot of discipline, self-control, ability to problem solve. Throwing a lot of money at the tribes during COVID, a lot of the for-appropriate bills, it worried me because some of our tribes don't have the capacity to manage that money. And it's created problems, I think, and we're trying to iron them out right now. And then the casino tribes, some of the beginnings were having a lot of issues very similar to this. I remember when California tribe, they burned out a lot of the members over there because they wanted less members to be on the land there. And so that kind of thing is happening a little bit here. So I'm a little worried about that. I think we'll come out of it okay. But there are some capacity issues with at least Nevada tribe. That's all I can speak to. It's Region 9 is weird because Nevada tribes lack a lot of capacity. We have one tribe, the Washoe tribe of Nevada and California, that has a casino. There's no one ever there. It's kind of like that. And then the Wapagana Paiutes in southern Nevada has a truck stop with games in it, with machines in it. That's it. We don't have gaming in Nevada because the state of Nevada makes it so difficult because they're a gaming state for tribes to get our own casinos. And so we don't have that income. Most tribes in Nevada are funded by grants. Our 638 contracts with the IA, they are grant driven. So they have very limited general fund support. So if you have a reimbursement grant, it really, tribes are like, I don't want to do a reimbursement grant because we can't wait 4 weeks to get paid back. They don't have it in their general fund. So a lot of it is confusing for the wages. Why can't this tribe do? This tribe doesn't do a reimbursement grant, or the tribe can do an in-kind match. We can't do in-kind matches because we think we can do it, and then we find out, oh, we can't do the things in matching in-kind, and then we lose the grant, and we get in trouble with audits. And I'm just saying we try that. But that often is the case. That happened even within the tribal council of Nevada with an in-kind matching grant where we couldn't meet the criteria. We were out of compliance and we lost the whole program. And thankfully the state of Nevada took it over. But these are real issues for tribes in Nevada.
Thank you for your presentation. I have friends at UNR that are working with some of the projects that UNR is really involved with in the mining site. And I remember at the time, Kamala, the vice president and candidate, she was present for the discussion of the mining site being a very special site for the local indigenous people of the place. And there was some court decision to negotiate if they could proceed with making that one of the biggest lithium mining sites in America, probably the biggest. And I wonder if in all this negotiation, they are able to commit to sharing the profits and benefiting the local Niue people and other indigenous tribes in the area. Because I am sure this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar project for them, to the point that we're already seeing gentrification. The airport is making a lot of investments to grow, and Tesla is growing, everything is growing there because it's going to benefit by anything money. Have they promised you anything to benefit the
Well, I have two answers to your question. And I know exactly, I work closely with IER because I'm watching that project. First of all, UNR, no educational facility, they don't have authority to speak for tribes at all. They shouldn't even be doing that. Number one, that's the first thing I want to say regarding that. And I have issues regarding that. Even IPCN, we had a Department of Native American Affairs speak earlier, and you can get in that trap where they want you to speak for the tribes, to take a stance, and you got to stay out of it. You have to respect the sovereignty of each of those tribes. And some of them are in negotiations with a lot of the mining companies. IER is talking to 14 tribes, but at different levels. They're talking to them regarding compensation or other things they can provide. And there are tribes actively engaged, and then the third party coming in could actually negatively affect those negotiations. Tribes don't want to make that stuff public. This happened with Agri Pass, where the former McDermott tribe was communicating with Lithium Americas behind the scenes. And then with all this stuff that came out in the press, they left. They left the negotiations. They were going to give millions of dollars to that tribe, and they didn't get that. And I told people, I brought this up in my Peter Ruby thing. All you guys that are against mining and you do all these stances, how successful are you? I know the answer, 0%. And I'm telling people, we talk about the Fort McDermott tribe, they're surrounded by mercury mines and it affects their drinking water quality. And when you say they don't care and aren't actively engaged, you think that they don't know, just shut up. You know what we're talking about. We're living it. And you're telling us, other tribes, what we should be doing, and they're living with it. And they're like, no, this time we're going to get something out of this and we're going to negotiate what you're talking about. So I think it is important that tribes negotiate, but I don't like when I see a mining company or BLM or someone throw out money and they put in the guise of helping the tribes when really they're trying to bypass federal policy, in my opinion.
I just wanted to mention that because with the opening speech that we heard in the opening ceremony from Vice President Harris, I really hope with her presence that she came a few times for this project, that she is able to promise you returns from this project, which is so much leaning towards the lithium mining. I really hope that.
I would say towards that, and then the record decision, the final EIS is out, and the record decision is going to come very soon. Read what they're doing with the water, the bad water, what their plans are, dewatering it, also the chemical stream, because they're trying to process the refined form of lithium. That changes the chemical stream, what's going back and forth. And a lot of us are focused on the cultural impacts, the spiritual impacts. I'm worried about, specifically with Pioneer and Red Ridge, the chemicals that are being introduced into the air, and that'll settle on surface water. And then I talked about this during the caucus a little bit, is FastX and the Trump administration, their process, and they're really front-driven, looking at scoping and baseline work for the mine, and then really from the letter of intent to the record decision, like a year is their target always. And, we need people, geologists, hydrologists, anthropologists, to look over these documents. I'm used to 5 years for most new mines, and how can you do that in a year? You can't. Not protect people. I mean, I'm thinking about, what's that movie where Matt Damon stuck on Mars and whatnot? And they have to rush stuff over there, and they rush it, and what happens? It blows up. The thing blows up on the way, and they have to take another way to get it out of there. But when you rush stuff, that's what happens.
We have one last question. The Biden administration has recently changed the mining rules and it's focused on critical minerals to make exploratory and all sorts of stuff easier. And I think they included the exploratory drilling as a CADEX, which was completely wrong, as you just stated, because they don't take into consideration the effect on the aquifers that people are, well, hold an aquifer, you're basically destroying the aquifer and your water is going out. And that's something that needs to change. And I think that's one of the reasons why that you're seeing the fast tracking of these mines, because now every single mineral that they pull from the ground is going to be considered critical mineral. Copper is going to be critical, gold is critical, silver is critical, lithium is critical, coltan is critical, they're all going to be critical. And that's why they have changed the mining regulations. And the EPA has not caught up to it. The EPA wasn't even aware that, well, I shouldn't say they weren't aware, but one person at our meeting yesterday was aware that it did change for critical minerals exploration and mining, but the other people were unaware. So that's something that we need to really target and fight back against, because as you're saying, yes, we do have these phones and computers and everything, but we still need to make sure that it's done in a responsible manner that doesn't harm the animals and our relatives.
100%, and that's something you wouldn't start. I was getting scared when I was seeing language, because the language, legal language matters so much. And I'm like, critical minerals, why are we putting this in this? Or I get the other term, clean energy. Clean energy is such a vague term, it's a legal term. Oh, am I out of time? No? Okay, I'm out of time. But, so thank you for coming. Thank you. Next speaker that I'm taking that.